In Frankenstein, the character who it begins and ends with is Walton. Who is this man? Well, as in all men, he had values which defined him to a degree. The two values which define Walton in this story are primarily the thirst for knowledge and the value of his relationships with others. On the surface, this may not seem out of the ordinary, but, like the icebergs that he passed in his expedition, what's on the surface is only a small fraction of what there really is. What do I, the speaker, mean by this? Well, simply put, it is impossible to miss the fact that the character of Victor put all of his eggs in the basket of one of Walton's qualities, the thirst for knowledge. Likewise, Henry Clerval is a good example of someone who values relationships, or at least has a safe balance. These connections are not coincidences, but are supposed to put pressure on whatever decision Walton should make near the end of the novel. As everyone knows the fate of Victor, which stemmed from his ideals, this is a pressure that was already building from the situation that he found himself in. Not only a man in search for knowledge in the great unknown, but a man on the brink of mutiny, and who misses his sister back home. What he valued will be tested in this fateful situation.
First with Victor. Victor, being a man of science, struggles with the decision himself throughout the book. Early in the book, Victor is crazed by science and it drives him to do daring and immoral things. He collects bones and other parts just to assemble his monster. This monster he ends up creating becomes aggressive and destructive once Victor abandons it and begins to hate it. Toward the latter half of the book, Victor tries to better his relationships with his friends and family and tries to protect them from the monster, but he is a little bit too late. This shows the irreversible matter of science. Once it is discovered, it cannot be undiscovered. Victor and his youthful drive for science creates the very thing that destroys him and his family.
Henry Clerval, on the other hand, is a man of relationships and sees the world in the view of communities. He sees how every person fits into their community, and he himself is trying to find his niche. Henry is naturally a people person, so he establishes relationships with people and tries to build these relationships. Relationships are what Henry values most, like science with Victor, and he is driven by them, in an attempt to better them and create new relationships with new people.
So, with both viewpoints out of the way, all that is left is the decision that only the whole book led up to. Walton's decision was to turn back. Now, while it sounds like a worse ending, in context to the novel as a whole, it's actually the best ending in order to properly convey the lesson. That lesson is a lesson that should be learned from Victor. Balance is key. Without it, there is nothing stopping a disaster from happening because of science in this case. In a sense, Walton making this decision shows that he values his relationships with others in safety over the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Therefore, it is a glimmer of hope in the end of the novel.